Now at 36 seconds I've caught an object I haven't seen before. So I just caught it and it's still there. So I'm going to larger pictures to show you. What we have is that square object right there on the cliff. One process goes down, you've got a square process on it. And I've zoomed in pictures there. And you'll see objects inside I've zoomed in on. That tubular object there, openings and windows right there, that big round opening. And I've zoomed in on those buildings there which have pillars and they look more like wasp nests than human type buildings. They're all in the cliff face. So you've got the windows there, that's one structure there. It looks very brown and very strange like, but on the zoom zone large, the colours seem to come through the actual computer pixels. They're very good, the colours coming up on this, especially the windows and openings here, that very squarish building I've zoomed in on, and the construction there on that cliff face, and those objects right there. So you see the walkway, the pillars, step by step. It's very natural and smooth flowing, and also you get better images of what's on the left side of that wasp-like construction building. That's triangular one, that one there as well. You actually see that one clear in the pictures, and from there it looks very dark brown, but on the camera it comes up perfectly. And you'll see that black structure there. It looks like a beer bottle stuck on those white objects there, and that thing coming across there. So I'll actually take quite a few pictures which I'll add on now, and this is part 4. I've just done something unusual. I've just started recording before this structure and taken other clear shots of that area. There. It looks like square structure there. I've found a square type building down there with pillars and square windows. Oops, I just lost it, so I have to go back. So let's find it right there. I just lost it. So I'm trying to analyze it just before we go in. Obviously there's some strange shapes on there as well. So the trick is just to see stuff that looks a little bit out of the ordinary, then zoom in and try to focus on it. And here we have stuff as well. You see obviously there's some sort of objects. There's a huge white object there sticking out, and a shadow. There's pillars there and some sort of construction, and that zigzag shape there. And I'll actually focus in on that very bizarre object there as well. Even before we start on the last ones, I've just zoomed in that area there. You see some very strange type of archways and window construction. I'm looking at the object there, and that very strange white object. It's a cylinder, square is the back looks like a square shape. There's a shadow there, so it isn't a crater, it actually overhangs. Zoomed in, that very bizarre one that's step up, and all of a sudden you've got the square area there and those sort of windows or areas in the front. That's also very strange. Every building here is unique, and you've got 2 levels here that look like excavations inside the mountain or living areas. Some activity going on there, and I'll zoom in on those areas as well. That object there, you can see it straight away. That's a square, there's 2 bits there, and that's a round hole, and that's a perfect square. That's a rounded object there that's coming out, and it hides under that cave there. So I'll enlarge those pictures as well. There's a square object right there. The next area I found was that wall, and that's a strange area too. You'll see the round domes and shapes. We have a wall coming up. It's got a big square in it, and that's unusual there as well. I could have caught maybe a few things I didn't see before on that structure there. So I'll take a picture of that. These pictures are processed. There's a wall coming up which has a perfect square hole in it. So that's the one I wanted also to process. This is where I see other important things I'll zoom in on. There's that peculiar hole there in that wall. Well, a building structure is a huge hole that is coming through every frame. And I've picked up that T shape on the cliff fairly well. There's cliff structures there which are quite common. Usually there's buildings on the cliff, and they seem to go under the cliff and have like pillar supports and stuff like that. There's one object that goes right out there, which I'll take a zoom of, and you've got that peculiar shape there with what looks like windows and pillars, and that's a unique shape there. So what I'll do to actually show that doesn't change, I'll just pause it where we come up to that spot, and we'll see those changes coming in effect. There's an object going over. We'll see that there's a new object there. That's been paintbrushed right there. Yes, I've seen that before. That's a zigzag shape. And here's that opening right there. You'll see it there, and as you zoom in, you'll see it more opening up there. It's opened up more. You'll see those objects. There's a few ones popping up there. I'll take a picture of that now, actually. And you'll see that square window. Put the cursor on there and those round buildings right there. So that's quite unusual. The ones on top, I've seen them in other photos as well, so they look legit. So I'll just take a quick photo. And normally you'll see the openings like little black squares and stuff like that. You'll see that object going up the side of the hill there, that rounded object. And there's that hole in the wall in that building. There it is again. You see it, it's perfect square. And these structures are coming up more on that cliff face. There's something parked there or object there, square. There's that T-shaped object. And all beams and pillars across there. And also you'll see those little buildings up there and like a crane going up there. That's a great picture as well. Then you see those zigzag structures there as well. That hexagon shape. These are the images for part 4. So this is where we'll see the various things popping up. This one's a hard one to see. There's something happening going across. These are the ones which are upside down. So that's where you see that square tower. These actually, I had to invert the screen upside down just before it enters the main area. And this is where you'll see that square tower, like a dome on top, various structures on here. They're very hard to focus in on. It's very, very rough film. You'll see what looks like those tubes going across entrances. That one there as well. Not that good material. That's a perfect square. We've got something there. That is a shape. I knew it was. That's a perfect rectangular excision right there. You got little openings there like living quarters. That's the area there, and that comes across. I was correct with that one. Once you see some little abnormality like that, you then know you're onto something. So I have to tape that fly over, but that's when it flies upside down. Actually, I can add that right now as we talk to actually show you where I got that. So I can't rotate the screen upside down. This is what I analyze. I just rotate the screen upside down. I knew we were looking at important structures there, so that's where I saw these structures. Just as we go over, so that square comes up, those weird shapes. You have to rotate this upside down to see all the things that I photographed. I just saw these strange things that shouldn't be there, and obviously when it's upside down, you've got less chance of seeing them. I think that's the object that I zoomed in on, that last one with the squares and stuff like that. But you're actually upside down, or we're actually flying. There it is. So that's what we're seeing here, those sort of flyovers. It's a perfect excision there, rectangular. That looks like that square tower I'm trying to zoom in on. So it's very bright screen. It's very hard to do anything. What looks like little windows there, apertures. There's that tower. And it looks like it's got a building right next to it there with an opening, which I've seen common in other things. So it's got a round circle. It looks like a hexagon type shape. So it's a pretty big tower. There it is again. I'll try to zoom in on it. These are objects that are rounded, which obviously shouldn't be there. An object up there as well. Those tubes that go across. And right at the end we see those big rounded wasp nest type structures as well. Again, they're too bright to analyze. They're much too bright. More there. I couldn't do much of this. There's things there, but obviously I can't do much. So even that rectangle there changes shape as you fly over. Let's try to skip these images. They're not that good. Okay, these are further images I took. That comes over the moonscape. Rounded apertures, tubes. There's that big tube that came down. You see the big round aperture at the end. That's a good one. I love that. It's so dynamic in shape. And you see like windows down the bottom, square windows, shapes. This is a good picture because I just caught in the frame where you can see all the individual openings in it. I don't think it's an aberration. They're just so bright and black. There's a few happening there as well. On the ledge you see the same type of rounded structures with those bright black, very clear black apertures or holes. That one there. Those rounded entrances there. There's that tower. It's beautiful. This picture is just fantastic. You see the tower coming up, the round ones on the side, the black square one with a dome on top, and that tube that leads to the white building. That's it there again. The black one, the lines going across, the one there. I'm sorry, that's the clearest I was able to get these images. They're not that good. There's obviously things happening there. That's that white structure in the tower and the tube that leads to that tower. It's beautiful. They're so futuristic, curvy shaped. They look very modern, and they all seem to blend in with the landscape. Something big was there. It was airbrushed, you can tell. And you just see little processes coming out, and all of a sudden that's been airbrushed. Something pretty big was there, but you can see all the openings there as well. Airbrushing. Oh, this is an example. It shows all the major airbrushing happening. So if that's happening, it looks like when I'm zooming on the smaller structures, they're the real deal. Because I'm scared it could be a fake image from Apollo 11. I doubt it. So they probably had a very short time to go airbrush the main stuff out, like that airbrushing there. Then I obviously start to catch the very small stuff, which they couldn't assume 45 years later. There was probably a big structure there. Someone would have such a high zoom camera to zoom in on things you wouldn't see on the film. Or the film could be analyzed on, YouTube of all places and someone's computer screen. Here are all those domes, and it looks as though people actually, or aliens are living there in the mountains, in the hills. Some are very definite shapes. Well, they're not aliens, they're selenites on the moon, they're called. They're wasp-like or insect-like creatures. The greys, that's what I've been reading. I think Orson Welles wrote that a novel, First Men on the Moon, and he said they're wasp-like, and it's strange, but that's what the buildings look like, wasp-like type structures. Can't do much on that one. That's interesting. It shows those wasp-like openings right there. More there. More there. This is very super. Got the black opening there, the dome, looks like an eye, that beautiful triangular process, and some more openings right there. It looks like a work of art rather than a building. They're not accidental shapes. And there's an object right on top of there. It just doesn't look accidental. There it is again. And look at that black clear object, the rounded object there. It's like a huge black eye, and the little windows down the bottom right there. That's great. This obviously is a very strange shape. You've got a rounded object, looks like an eye. There's openings up there as well. I'll see if I can use some processing on that one. Let me see. I've accessed Windows Photo Gallery, so let's play around with the settings, see what happens. It's worked previously for me. I haven't used it for a while now. I should. I didn't realize how to do it on Windows 8. Yeah, it did. It just brought up that eye, or that shape there. Brought it up a fraction better. You can actually see those openings there in that rounded object. We've seen that triangular shape previously. It's fantastic. Could we do something with the color temperature? Yeah, that's worked a bit. Tint might work one way or the other. And the saturation. Let's go back to the original. I prefer this format because it's just a lot larger. And the images really can't be fixed up that much. That one's good because it shows a sort of honeycomb structure that I've seen happening as well. It's like having honeycomb patterns there throughout the image as well. Let's see if I can just enlarge that. There it is. And I've seen that happening. Now here we have these craters close together, and we have patterns across these holes. So they don't look like craters because you can see all the various patterns in there. I found one that's perfectly square. This one has smaller holes in the large rim. That's why it got unusual. If you see it there, you see 1, 2, 3, 4. That could work with window. Let's do it now. Let's do the photo gallery. Put it in there and see how this comes up. We'll just fiddle around with it. It deserves attention, this one. Highlight, contrast. There we go. It has brought it up. I didn't think it would be. It is worth the effort. Sometimes it's really hard to get ones. So I see little holes in there. Now, all these areas around it don't look like craters, do they? And this one I can step up the enlargements without having to do it manually. I just press the buttons. That's a good one. Let's go back to where we were. There it is. So that's how quick I can just jump between them. You've got very little holes popping up, which is squarish in shape. And that's why obviously that didn't make sense to me, what's happening here in that picture. We might do that trick on this one. Windows Photo Gallery, you pop up here and organize it. That pops up there. And let's see what we can do. Yes, we can close that highlights, contrast, and brightness. It does bring up a lot of things on this one. They don't look like craters, do they? They're more like holes or ventilation holes. Same sort of system here happening. Many strange shapes are popping up. This was just as it flew over and was coming towards the end, and it took off quick. So it seems as though they were flying a reconnaissance mission to actually observe what was in this very, very short area, about 10 seconds or less. They flew down very low. Quite a fair bit has been airbrushed. See how you got those square holes there popping up? Let's do the photo gallery trick on that one. We might be able to adjust exposure on that one and see what's happening. Works. That works. That works. And this has worked very well on this one. You'll see there's a white object in there. And I can just tap the images. It's like two white objects, and these are more like squares. That's a good image. That was that long object that has like those pincer claws on the right hand side. You can see the square operations. With little black openings, we might do the photo gallery trick on this as well. I think this is worth the effort as well. In fact, we should do it on all of them, because this one has a few things happening to it. I think if I play around a bit, I can bring up those rectangles and lines and different shades, which actually it did do right now. Look at that. Look at that clarity in that picture. Squares and the openings there like little windows. I'm going to keep using this one. Here what looks like the pincer claws. I That's a good one. There was one we did before. There was one other one. It's very unusual. That's where the pincer claws are. This is like a square opening and something seems to be coming out. This deserves playing as well because it's very white and bright. You can't really see much unless you play around with the contrast. There it is. That was worth the effort as well. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm zooming into this sort of capability. There are those pincer-like hooks. There's that square shape and there's that thing coming up. And there's a square shape coming up from there. Here are those little arches and a building type of patterns there. Now I didn't realize I could jump from one to this Windows for photo gallery. I haven't done editing for a while using these highlights. So I just accidentally forgot how to use it on Windows 8. Let me zoom in on this one as well. As obviously this isn't an accidental blur. Seems as though it's got a flat area, that's the pillar. This is the next picture. We might play with this one. Now each frame, obviously it travels probably the speed of probably less speed than a jumbo jet. It won't be going that quick. So it's going across the ground at a very quick rate. So every frame, it's actually moved a fair bit. So there's quite a bit of activity on that one. Yeah. It can't be just blur. So I have to work out what could be a blur and what's a real image. And that's why it's always better to go 2 or 3, 4 frames and make sure that object does not change shape. That's helped in this case. Look at that. That's a good one. There's that object that comes over the cliffside. It's like a zigzag shape. As I analyze it 2 or 3 frames later, we've got like structures appearing on the left. And here are some of the structures. So I can just open up those darker areas. Yep, this is a great way of doing it. There it is. It comes over. We've got like windows there. There's a black object there. I'll try to use it on other pictures I didn't process that well. I think I should have used this before, but I couldn't find it after I downloaded the new Windows 8 on this new laptop. That's brought up good stuff. Look at that. This is where I saw those objects on the left. They're not accidental blurs. Obviously, there's too many lines and rectangles on that one to be just a blur. So obviously it's caught that one frame after it flew slightly more. It seems to be too sophisticated to be a film set. See, there you've got the pillars, the windows. Got the next image here. This one, it's that bizarre white dome near that big walled building that has a big square window on the left. Let's see what we can see now. It just seems to be sitting there. There's an arch, a round thing. It's as though it's some sort of equipment. Maybe a UFO, I don't know. I don't like to use the word UFO when it's so commonly used these days. There's that T-shape on the edge. It seems to be coloured. Half is lighter, the other half is darker. That's close I can get on that one. Here's that square shape in the wall. There was that rounded object on that side, and there's that one other object there. I might play around with the colours on this one too. Yep, it's worth the effort. There's that hole, you can see through it. There's that object again. Rounded object, that's one picture. I'll try to use this on those twin towers as well. That's got a clearer picture of that round dome. That's a good one. I just don't think this was a film set in 1969. It's just too much detail. And yet the large structures are blurred. So they accidentally blur the large structures at NASA just before the film's released quickly, and then think, oops, 45 years later, someone might do an in-depth zoom on YouTube, and that's the whole purpose of not editing the others. It doesn't make sense. So I think it could be legit. There's that hole again. We won't zoom in further. We've seen it. It's very good. And that brings it up fairly well. There's that twin tower. That's the one I really want to work on. It just looks like a wasp nest. It's a wing shape. There's that dome. It's in the rounded area. Can't do much on that one. There's that dome down at the bottom of the walkway. This might produce results. It's a very hard one to analyze at all. I'm not sure how to do it. Let's see what that brings up. It's got like that shape there in that rounded area. There's that thing on top of the cliff. Seems to be too much work in there, in that structure, too external structure. There's that object down the bottom. That looks like a square opening there. Play around again with the highlights. Yes, we got something there. That's a very weird shape. Look at that. It's like a fish mouth there. Square, then it goes further down. We've got that square opening. That's the closest I can do on that one. The editing has worked. There's that twin tower again, twin tower. There's that rounded white object. It's going to be hard one to analyze. Do it quickly. Things are popping up, but it's not that good to start with. There's that a dome on that a building near the twin towers now. It's reddish, but on this film it doesn't pick it up. A little red tint to it. There's another object. This might work. We've got what looks like windows in that big tubular process. That has brought that up. So the structure's there, and you see those openings there, which are like windows. It's worked on that one. Might work on this one. This is that big tube that leads down into that hexagon. And it looks like an opening, and there's actually a few openings on that one. It's very space age type of design. Look at that. That one's going to work. That's my best catch. It's just like a wasp, a building. It's white. And if you catch it at the right angles, you see all the windows, and it's got like a dome on top. And down the bottom, you can see them going up and sideways, and there's two big rounded areas right there. That's a classic. That's a very good one. I caught that. I was ecstatic. There's that white square just appeared on the left. Now if I play around with the shadows, it might bring up something. Honeycomb effect on this one. This is a good one. If I play around with the highlights, we might get those darker window openings coming up again. there it is. It did the job. It's like a wasp nest environment. It's like alien insect type of. They actually seem to, like insects, they adapt to the surroundings rather than actually cut through them and make very strange excavations and things like that. They're actually all on the mountains, on the cliff. Look at that. That is fantastic. There's some more structures right there. I can't do that anymore. You can actually see sort of into it deeper now that I've color coded it. This one's good. This is where you see that really strange shape coming up there, and the horizontal ones, the vertical ones. Shape there, it's good. We'll try to do something with this one. There's not much there that meets the eye, but something could pop up once I start changing the highlights. It's like a honeycomb type of object right there. It was clear when I took the photo. There's that white building again. It might be a different snapshot, so I'll play around again with the colours. There are certain patterns happening on that, but I haven't got time. This is the golden catch. This one looks like what was on the computer screens of the National Geographic Apollo flyover. And I saw these bizarre buildings on that. And I thought, well, there's too much work has gone into that. Why hasn't it been used in a film if they're alien buildings? And yet it was a National Geographic documentary. I'll just quickly show it now. This was in May, 16th of May, and you can see those exact same images on that documentary that I made. And this was the National Geographic Apollo 11 film set type of documentary. And the strange thing was it just looked too real. So this is the documentary here, and I'll go through it quickly because I had to actually take out a logo and things like that. But this was in a spaceship, and there's too much detail down there, so that's why I zoomed in. And I'll see those strange shapes as well that we saw now, like the rounded dome buildings. This looks like a roof or a tent over a structure. There's too much detail, and inside I found a very bright radiation coming out of it. We see the round tubes again, which I just put the volume down. So all those images there we've seen now in real life over the Apollo 11 mission, but here we see it in a National Geographic documentary, and that's where I saw on the computer monitor on the left those strange shapes of buildings, which I haven't seen in any other. These are the moon buildings. They all seem very strange and artificial. The ones that people say are the moon buildings, like long towers, these are very peculiar shapes that I analysed. And if I go forward quickly, I'll try to show that actual area there. So this is the National Geographic documentary, and you see all the structures down there that just don't look normal. So this was meant to be a film, but they could be using real. These are these strange buildings on their computer set. So this is a strange thing. Why am I seeing this now in official flyovers by NASA, and yet it was used here in National Geographic? These are the exact ones. There they are. That's the exact shapes that I'm finding now. And that, to me, first time I saw them, I thought there's too much effort for this to be a hoax. We're finding the same ones now. That's what I'm trying to work out. Why is this happening? So I'll just quickly pause that. Go forward a bit. And yet these are the same shapes that I'm coming up with. And here we go. We've got the same shapes appearing now in official Apollo 11 buildings that I've analysed. That's what will go back in photo gallery. That's why that shouldn't be happening now in the real one. So it could be they were using film again from the real one in that National Geographic film. There it is there. That's that same structure, isn't it? We just saw. And we've got all these same twisting, bizarre shapes happening, which are really more like insect formation type of buildings. There are. That's a very good. The contrast is paid off here in editing. There's a white building. There's a white building on the crater and all those objects down the bottom. We'll just do highlights on that. We've got various colours popping up here. We've got greens, purples and whites. It's going to be a hard one to do. These are the buildings on the cliff near the Black Tower. We've done this one before. There's that strange one. Sideways. There's the wasp-like structures there. They're beautiful. And some of these I've caught and you can really see all the things that they're like wasps. Have you ever seen a wasp nest? That's what these look like. So that's insect mentality of these moon aliens. There we go. Here we've got the building again. Same as one we saw on the film set from National Geographic. Again. And again. I don't think anyone in 1969 from NASA could have dreamed up these shapes to do on some sort of film set in Hollywood. It's just too much sophisticated work in here. It's too futuristic. Look at that. You even see the dark openings in the structure. There it is. That's a great picture. Might adjust the colour on that one. It's too much work in there for someone to do on a Hollywood film set just before Apollo 11 flew over. And then use it. And then the larger structures are blurred out and the smaller structures I accidentally now find more than nearly 45 years later. It just doesn't add up again. I think this is the real deal. There we go, look at that, that's beautiful. Every little opening, every little window, every little pillar. Again. Now, when I post these on Facebook, I've had many requests for Oracle downloads, software updates. There was like 2 or 3 a day. I haven't had that happen before, so that may be one more indication these are the real thing. About 2 Oracle, 3 Oracle updates, a Java Oracle. That doesn't happen that much. So I think this could be the real deal. There's that beautiful white hexagon type building. Hey, that's brought something up. Look at that. I haven't touched that knob there. Oh my god, look at that. Just look at those things coming up. The layers, the openings, the white, a dome on top. That's great stuff. This is a hard one. Things white. Things are happening. There's a building there are the pillars I saw. It was clear when I saw it on the computer screen. There it is again, same time. Something's there, but I'm not coming up as good as I want. Obviously there's things happening there, but there's no special shapes jumping out. This is that object in front of the cliff. That's the first one that you see when Apollo 11 comes over. And the more I try to bring up what's there, it's very hard to do. It does not change with the flyover, so it is there. It is a definite object. And this one is more like a square object. You've got the thing on the left. It's a very good capture, that one. Again, could be clearer. Some are perfectly clear, some need a lot of work. It's more like a honeycomb, this one. This looks like a dome in the front, rounded open. This is more of a honeycomb type of shape with pillars on the side. I've seen these before, so it could be the real deal. Honeycomb again. Pillars and honeycomb. We've got something very definite popping up here at us. If you have a closer look, it seems to be going into there and actually providing arches, and there's a definite cover on that one. This does work with the very bright white images. It does bring up those little differences that could provide openings to windows and frames and pillars. There's our peculiar object in front of the cliff. I have no idea what it is. Obviously it's not a rock, is it? Again, that's the clearest I can get out of that one. It's very hard to get clear images. Again, this was 1969. And I analysed this a year ago. Just no way I'd find all these images. I was using a 3 megapixel iPhone 3GS camera. It just did not do what I'm doing now with the HTC 5 megapixel. I've got definite honeycomb type patterns coming up here. Look at that. Now this object is too square, has definite shadows. On the back it's a square, on the front it's a cylinder. That's all I can do with that one. This is a good one. You've got that honeycomb pattern coming in. That's very good. That shows activity. This one here could be honeycomb. It's a type of, I'm not sure if it's a mining activity or where they actually live. It's a very tricky one. Now this shows a square hole just at the bottom of the screen in front of the round white one. That was where that is. That's that object there. No, there's actually a square type rectangle, little objects in there, then that thing popping up. That's what it was. Something's happening here as well. These two objects go under that type of air excavation. That's a perfect square near a round hole. That's brought it up. That is so unusual. One's square and one's round. These are more honeycomb type of patterns that open up, and then objects seem to be there right at the edge. Either they're living objects, mining objects, I don't know. That hole looked normal, except there were all these zigzags on the edge and a structure on the left. So that's why I sort of had a quick feeling there could be more to this one. See those lines there, and it's as though there's cuts or zigzags in there. There we go. Yeah, there is something there, obviously. It's been cut into it. That's an object it isn't an accidental artifact. Zigzag step up and it's square. You've got the opening there. This one's good because you got purplish colours popping up, and obviously objects there. You've got a little window there, an opening. These things were same things that were on the National Geographic Apollo film documentary. Yet the strange things I'm finding all these in real life in NASA footage. Exactly the same building type shapes and patterns. So the question is, who built these? Are they still there? Are these aliens still there? Is that the reason we can't return to the moon? And what impact was the L-Cross bombing there in 2009 near Cabe's crater? I found huge structures there. Tubes and squares and everything down the South Pole. Gigantic, massive structures that look as though they're organic growths or, again, wasp-like, insect-like things. It's very hard to describe. Something's happening here as well. This is definite things on this hill. That's where we see the perfect square. It goes downwards and the T shape there. One half is light, the other half is dark. That's very unusual. These are very peculiar. That's that big square opening. On the cliff edge on the left of the image, we find again these many different angles, that T object. It's not just a film blur, is it? Here we've got interesting shapes. It's like an igloo shape. We saw that in the Apollo 11 film set. Well, I call it film set, but it looks real now. There we go. This looks like a big Weet-Bix, not Weet-Bix, a cereal, a breakfast type of shape. I used to eat them before. There's that square and strange structures popping out. This next frame, when it flew over, brought up those T-shaped objects very well. See them there? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a lot happening in this one. Look at those shapes. I'll have to pause it and continue because this will be too long. We're about 45 minutes long. Okay, we've got a definite things going on here, which are not just accidental blurs. Look at that. Look at those shapes. That's an object we saw before. That's unusual. It's a square, but it's also corrugated. There's that square black object. Now this would take a lot of work to get those individual layers out of it. And I think I just did it. There it is. Let's go one more. There are definite structures in here. That object, the white lines going over it. I think take it down unless you see it easier. It's just so bizarre. I don't think it was made up in Hollywood or NASA. There's too much work has gone into this. You just couldn't dream up the shapes I'm finding here. There's that T-shape again. There's too many individual bizarre things. There's that opening. Look at it. Perfect. You can see right through it. Wow. This sits there. It's got good shadows, but I don't know what it is. It's too much work in this. Look at that. Look at all those shapes involved. Excavations in the mountain and everything. It would take people years to do this on Hollywood and produce this sort of film set. I just wouldn't dream of all the shapes that I've seen. This one looks like a huge beer bottle surrounded by little white things down the bottom. This is where my contrast might make something out of this. There it is. It's very hard to see, but you've got all the individual shapes there, the domes, the windows on it. I haven't reached the extent where I can say I'm seeing live objects or what those live objects look like. I haven't reached that stage. They're probably there, but I can't see them. They're probably too small creatures. or it could be all empty. There's many shapes here on the hill, everything. Too many to be dreamt up. Look at that. Look at those shapes coming out of there. There's that object that goes there, the windows. Who built these? Are they still there? Are our military in there now? NASA? I don't know. Just look at those fantastic shapes. Now again, the structures that I analysed on the moon, on South Pole, that was with amateur telescope. There were people in the Facebook Lunar group. The one was a very good analysis, Redman, Nathaniel Redman, and he uses a 76mm telescope and a Nikon camera. He's getting perfect images. When I zoom those, there are huge structures, about 20 to 50 kilometers. Also, a Peloncito. Now these structures don't look anything I've seen. Are they? And that's why I'm thinking, look, these are probably real as well, these images. They're not just made up accidentally. Look at that. There's excavations there, little windows or tunnels going through the mountains, one object there, one rounded, a dome. If I'd be able to see something alive, but I haven't been able to do that. Look at that. Oh my God, look at those windows and archways just coming up right now. Look at that. This one will require a lot of work. It was a darker area, but I sensed they had the openings and windows, and there they are. Look at that. Look at that. That is great. That's to dream about. These are beautiful images. It's going to be a very long video. There's that pincer shape, and there are the objects around it. This is a very, very good image. Look at that. It's like some sort of tool to pick something up. There's that white square structure. So I think we return now to where we started because all these things have been edited. We'll go through them quickly. There's that tower. It's very dark and I'm not getting what I want out of it quality wise. It's beautiful, look at it. And there's that same sort of architecture.